Okay, it's been a day or two. Back at the shop again. The cruiser's still hanging out all by itself. I'll show you what we got done here on the cleanup. So yesterday I spent some time cleaning all this crap up because it was a disaster. Really disgusting. So basically I pressure washed off all the parts on the axle and made them nice and clean. Okay, so here's our knuckle assemblies, our steering arm, and then our spindles, I guess. So all that's nice and cleaned up. And then, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get a rag and just start wiping these off a little more, and then we can start to reassemble this knuckle over here. So this one's all cleaned up. We gotta put the seal in here and then the races for the bearings. And on the, let's see here. Yeah, right here. On the rotors and hub assembly there, I knocked the races out yesterday. They were just, this thing was just a giant mess, so it wasn't really worth recording. You gotta clean them up. Washed them off and they're ready to go back on now. So I'll show you the reassembly on one side, and then you can figure out how to do the other side yourself because it's exactly the same. And one other thing I did is I ran down to Cruiser Parts in Salt Lake and bought all new tie rod ends, and then I had misplaced, well, I bought these two. Bought some new tie rod end clamps, and then I got new cone washers because I was missing some. They're hoping to get this done today because tomorrow I want to go four-wheeling. So it's gonna be gonna try and knock this out as quick as I can. It's gonna be a pain, but let's get going. Assembly right here. I removed the brass bushing that was in there, and here's the new brass bushing. I'll show you how to install that. All right, new brass bushing. This is what the axle rides in through the hub here, or the spindle. So just take your hammer and tap her in. I'll have to do this without you watching the rest of the way. I've got it started, so I'll show you when I come back. Okay guys, I got the bearings laid out here. These are the wheel bearings here and the races for them. These are the steering knuckle bearings and races. I already kind of test fit some races on the other side, but I'll show you how to do those. So we're going to start off by packing all of our bearings here, and then we're going to put the races in the hubs. Each hub has two different sizes of bearings and races, so make sure you put those in the right spot. It should be pretty easy because the smaller one is not going to go where the, or actually the bigger one is not going to go where the smaller one goes. So let's get started on that, and then what we'll do after we get all this stuff assembled and greased is start by putting on our felt seals and gaskets and all that crap that goes behind here for the steering knuckle. Okay, so I'm going to start by greasing these. We've just got some extreme pressure red grease for wheel bearings. And that's always nice and yummy. Okay, some of that. I do not have a bearing or a wheel bearing packer, so I just do this. I just grab a bunch like that, throw it in my palm, and then I just start pressing that through there. Just keep pushing it till, keep packing them until like that, until it starts coming through the top there of your bearing. This takes a while, but just fill them full. It's a very messy process, so All right, I'm gonna shut this off and continue on this for a while. You get the point of what you're doing here. Pack your bearings.
2 hours later.
All right, as you can see, everything's packed now. So that's it for all the bearings that need to be greased. These are also the hub seals right here that came in this kit. So we'll start doing the assembly on the hubs. We got to put the races in and the bearings and then the seals, the hub seals. Some of the bearings don't go in until we kind of finish up with the spindle and the Birfield and stuff, so we don't need to worry about that just yet. But I'll pre-assemble some of the stuff now so that when I get to it, it'll be a lot easier. So let's move on to that stage. Okay, we're gonna put the races, the steering races in up here for the knuckle. So if you can see in here, there's a fatter side and then a thinner side. The thinner side needs to go up when you install that. Otherwise you won't be able to get your bearings because the bearings are tapered and they fit down into there like that. So you'll need to put the tapered thinner side to the top and to the bottom down here, if that makes sense. So just make sure that your taper is facing outward. And then just take a hammer, this little 16-ounce one, and you can just start tapping them. Or something. So that's the races put in here. We need to put the race. We got 2 more races for hub assembly now. Here's the hub assembly with the brakes. So we're gonna go put those in next. Okay, we're gonna put the wheel bearing races in. So there's a smaller one and a bigger one. Woo! All right, the smaller one actually goes towards the front, so these hub studs are sticking out here. So put that one like that. So you need the thinner edge, this thinner edge. See, that's the fatter edge right there. Facing, you want the fatter edge facing inward and the thin edge outward. Just, you can either get a race driver kit. I'm just going to try this out, see if I need to go get it. But you can usually just tap these in. Just work your way around it. Okay, on the back side now, you want to take the fatter side, and then there's a thinner side. Take the thinner side, place it upward in here. This one's going to be a bit tighter fit than the front. So just kind of tap it in to start it. Okay, so we're home. Okay, so the next step is to shove this, your bigger wheel bearing in. So it's your bigger one right here. This actually goes in first. There you go. Just sit her in there. Now you can take a little grease around the lip here to help your seal go in. That's what I like to do, just kind of do that like that. Work that around. And you've got a couple different, let's see, Our kit came with four wheel seals here, so let's figure out which one is the right one to use. All right. So it looks like that's the one that fits there. I'm gonna go grab a different hammer. I'll be right back. All right, the Air Force is flying again. Woo, baby! F-35s for the win, I guess. All right, so take your wheel seal here. And I just like to start by kind of tapping them in. All right, so I just worked that all the way around, tapping it in. Clean that back up. There you go. That wheel seal is now fitted in there. All right, so now you can go grab your other wheel, your other hub assembly with the brake on it and everything, and do the same thing to it. So I'm gonna shut you off while I do that, and then we'll come back to assembling. Okay, we are ready to start reassembling here. So I've got our wheel seal, that's the first, or the axle seal, so we need to put that in here first. All right, quick tip, when you're putting this back in when you're putting your axle back in through this, make sure you put a bunch of grease around this, and then we can just, then your axle shaft will slide through there without ripping your new seal, which will make you mad because you only got 2 in the kit. So, all right, all you gotta do is push this in here. Get it to kind of stick. I just like to use a big old socket to help me tap it into place. And a little bit of an extension, if I've got one. I probably don't today, so we'll just see how it goes here. Okay, finally, it's in there. It's nice and flush. Your wheel seal just goes in there like that. Just tap it in like I did, or get a wheel or a driver, a seal driver. And now I'm just gonna place a little bit of grease around that so it does not get ripped as I put the axle shaft back in. But all right, so next step is to put the seals on around the backside here. All right, so here's everything that comes with it. You've got your backing plates right here. This is like your shim. This is your rubber seal. And then you've got your felt. So I think that this goes first, second, third, and then these are on the outside, not that much. Your felt goes like that, and your bolts, there's a certain way to do this too. I think you want it like that. But you always want to make sure you place the that little tab, that tab, whatever, underneath the bolted side. So eat it like that. Okay, so your felt goes on first. This is probably gonna suck to get on. I'm gonna try and get it on there without ripping it, but it's a tight fit. Okay, so I'm just kind of working it. Okay, so there you go, that's on, felt's on. Now you take your steel, and this is actually split in the middle, so you can just kind of work it around like that. There you go, that's on. And then your rubber piece, that faces outward, that little lip, so make sure it faces inward to the axle housing right there like that. Now you got everything lined up. These steel shims go on last once we get the knuckle back on, and then you can fit all this stuff back up to the back side of the knuckle. Next thing we need to do is grab our bearing for the knuckle, for the steering, and that's one of these smaller ones. Let me grab one. Okay, so take your steering bearing and just, you stick it right on that kingpin right there. Okay, and now you can start your reassembly process, finally. After hours and hours of cleaning, you're finally gonna get to reassemble crap. Who's not excited? Okay, before you do that, I forgot to put the bottom bearing in. So let me grab the bottom bearing. Okay, so next thing, the other thing you need to do is put your bearing up in here. So just pull back your hub like that, push your bearing up into the race, and then just drop that down. That'll keep it in place. The next part we need to do is stick our steering arm on, and the rod, or the steering arm, faces backwards on this because the tie rods are in the back. Okay, so just kind of work it up in there. Once you got it up there, grab a cone washer, and then a washer, and then a nut to get yourself started. And just do that to all of them. Yep, in here. Yep. Should be a 17 millimeter if I remember right. Socket for that. Okay, now that we've got that on, now we can put the rubbers and the felt and the steels on the back here. I'm going to come back with a torque wrench and torque these down because I actually don't have the torque setting right now for my wrench. I don't have my torque wrench here. I gotta run home and grab it along with some new brake lines. So that'll be the next thing I do. So these are some 10 millimeter bolts. There are about 6 or 8, I don't remember, but we'll get there. Well, they're 10 millimeter bolt heads. So I'm glistening in this sunlight coming in right now. It's beautiful. What's up? That's better. That's some better sunshine right there. I got a little backlighting over there coming through the top of the windows up there. What's up? What's up, girl? Just kidding. I have a wife. Okay, now that that's over. Okay, so there are 2, 4, 6 of these bolts. Set them over there. Get your first one started here. This is not going to be fun because there's not a whole lot of awesome room back here. So, first thing I will do now is get my rubber up into place here. I'll set this steel piece over here. I'm sure this is going to be really not fun. Okay, and then once you get that up there and in the slot, go ahead and move your steel piece behind there. Make sure that that slit in your steel is actually facing upward. That way it'll be harder for grease to come through there. So this lip needs to go inward. Okay, so you want to make sure that that ridge is facing inward towards the hub. So here we go. That'll keep everything retained and where it should be. It's probably gonna be the most frustrating part of this, is trying to keep everything where it goes. Okay, you got one started. 2. Then we'll go for that bottom lip. Just make sure your rubber seal is all in place because that's what keeps the grease inside the housing. Again, make sure you put the bolted side over the top of that one. So just place your other one on top and then slide the other one down underneath. And then to hold that in place, you might want to just put a bolt right through here. All right, so there you go. Everything's started. And then just do a crisscross pattern probably to get everything nice and tight there. So it doesn't have to be super tight, just tight enough not to come out. It's a 10 millimeter. Okay, that's done. Nice smooth movement on that now. So I think I've got everything pretty well set here. I'll get my torque wrench in a little bit here. I'm going to assemble the other side. I'm going to do that off camera. And then we can go ahead and start putting our outer stuff back on here. It's taking me probably about a total of like 5 hours so far. That's what's shooting, videotaping, videoing, whatever. And I do have electric tools that are available to me. These are my pride and joy here. And a lot of cleaning. The cleaning has probably been the biggest part, that has been the biggest pain in the butt, cleaning things up, because these were nasty. There was probably about half an inch of crud on top of these knuckles. So, all right, let's hop to the other side. Okay, we got our hubs on both sides, well, our steering knuckles. Next step here, since I'm replacing my Birfields or CV joints, depending on where you are in the world. I don't know why everyone here calls them Birfields, but whatever. Okay, so we need to get this axle shaft out of the Birfield. It's just held in with a spring clip, spring retainer type thing. So what you need to do is just hit the edge against something hard. So here we go. Bam, they're separated. Pretty easy. I'm a little bit OCD when it comes to cleaning crap, so try to make sure everything is nice and clean. You don't want any garbage going back inside your axle. Okay, so there's this little spring clip here that holds it in place. Okay, so there's a little groove, you can see down in there where that spring clip resides. This would be easier if I had a hole in this, but I don't. So these are dry right now, so we'll have to put some lube, put the grease in there later. I guess you could do it beforehand, but I'm not going to. Okay, so all you have to do is take a small screwdriver and then push on that spring. Okay, that popped right in. Now you can just I'll grab a board or something, but you just take and smack this against the ground, and then your spring clip will seat. I'm gonna go do that on a board and I'll be right back. Okay, I just smacked that in. Now she's in. Next thing you're gonna wanna do is use some moly grease and start filling up the CV bearings inside there. Just slap that crap in there. I'll do that in just a minute. Let me go grab the other axle and put that together real quick. All right, other axle is back together, new CV. Okay, so what you need to do is grab yourself 3 to 4 tubs of some super lithium EP moly grease for CV joints. What you're gonna want to do here is make sure you got some gloves on. I'm on like my 4th set today. Look at that, tasty. Okay, that's some thick stuff, but that's what we need. So we'll do this on the smaller one for the camera because it'll be less awkward. Okay, so here's our joint. Just go ahead and stick with whatever hand you want to in there and just start pushing that down in those bearings. Later. Yeah, it's looking good. I'm not seeing any voids as I move this around anymore. It's all packed in there good. Okay. Another thing you want to do is just put a little grease on the shaft a little bit like that. So when you're putting it through the seal, you don't have to worry about ripping that seal. It'll slide right in. So
2 hours later.
All right, now that you got your shaft all greased up and your CV joint, your Birfield, fresh gloves, it is time to install. Grab our shaft here. We're doing the long side, which is the driver's side. So you gotta do, stand here and feed that through into your axle there, through the seal. Just go real slowly. And you got, okay, now as you're trying to get that back into the diff, you gotta kind of push downward on your CV joint to get that in there. Okay, just like that. Okay, so that's all in. Next thing we gotta do is pack the housing full of grease, and you're gonna need one of those tubs just frickin' smash it on in. Like you've never smashed before. That should be very good right there. Very good. Most of that's just going to end up at the bottom of the housing. That's okay. Okay, that's all in now. I think you should definitely budget for one box of paper towel, because man, that has been a lifesaver. Okay, the next thing we need to do is put on our hub here. And I gotta grab the seals for that. They go on first, and then this guy goes on with all the seals. So let's do that next. Okay, so we've got our paper gasket back here. We've got the other gasket right here. That little notch faces downward. And then this hole goes downward. And we can stick, actually I lied, that hole goes upward. So you put a couple bolts in to get this thing started. Okay, so let's grab that guy and your paper gasket. Punch through that. And then just get things up here aligned. Go ahead and start that one up. Grab another one. Next thing we can do here is take and put our ABS sensor back in. Well, this part's easy to get to. A couple bolts that hold it in. Let's grab that sensor. Okay, so that just goes in here like yonder. So there's one that goes right here. And then there's another one that holds, I think, to the bracket here. That up. Make sure you wipe off any metal filings from your ABS sensor. That's what screws them up. All right, that's ready to go. I'm just gonna put a little bit of wheel bearing grease on this stuff for now, so it will not get torn as I put everything else on. Never hurts to have a little grease on this stuff. That's where the bearing's gonna ride, so, and the seal, and everything rides on that. So let's just put a little bit of grease on there. This is the wheel bearing. I'm gonna use the wheel bearing grease on it. Makes sense, right? Yep, of course it does. All right, there. Put that on there. Our bearing is already inside of there on the back side, so should just slide up on there. Brake assembly, hub assembly left here. So we're putting in the wheel bearings on the front now. Let me go grab the front wheel bearing here. All right, so all I just had to do is push that on a little bit harder than normal, I guess. I don't know. It seems to fit fine. So push your wheel bearing in there. Okay, so in this kit I got brand new spindle, bolts, and the lock washer, and then the bearing washer. So there's a little tang at the top here. Just make sure that goes up and goes on the top of your spindle. There's a little groove on the top of your spindle here. Okay, so you push that on. Next up is your spindle nut. All right, as you're tightening this up, you just want to make sure that you still can turn it. I like to push in and out on it to see how much play there is. If they're still moving in and out quite a bit, then I like to keep on going with my tightening up the hub. You want some play in it, but not much. Okay, so now I can't do that, and this feels pretty good. So give it a few turns forward and back to make sure everything's getting seated, in and out. And give it one more little tap. See how it feels. That feels about right. All right, next thing to go on is your lock washer, lock ring. So you gotta do is slide that on the groove. Okay, lock washer's installed. Put on your next ring, your next nut, spindle nut. Okay, let's take your hammer and your chisel and snug that baby down again. Okay, that should be good. You don't want to over tighten that because I'll rip off your lock ring. Okay, now we've got the outer spindle nut on there. We need to knock the edges of this lock ring down. Best thing I've found for that, you want to knock a few backwards and a few forward. So I'm going to take just a blunt-ended punch and punch those over the top. I'll move you in so you can see what we're doing. Just grab your chisel, take your hammer here, and or your punch, and just bend a few of these backwards. Okay, that'll keep your inner nut from moving. And then on the front one, just grab yourself a small pry bar and then get behind it, pull it forward, and just press it down right over the nut edge. That way it won't come off later and make you cry. It's not fun to cry, is it, Eli? No, it's not fun to cry. Eli is videotaping us right now. So let's bend that forward, like that. Flip her around, and you can press up on it, just like that. So there, now nothing will move. Just like that. All right, Eli, our next step, let's go over here and grab it. It's good to have a cameraman sometimes, so, because my hands are nasty, I keep having to waste paper towels wiping them off. Our next step is to put on the new hub and the gasket for it. So this thing just goes on here like that. Let's see here, like that. Now that you're all done inside of there. Okay, and then these these two holes here go over your dowel pins, which are right here and right here. So just push on your gasket all the way. And then you might have to turn your wheel a little bit to get the axle. There you go. So there you go. That's on there now. Next thing you're gonna have to do is get your cone washers, your regular washers, your lock washers, and your nuts on this. And then I'm gonna put a bolt inside of here so I can pull this back and put the lock ring on there to keep it from going back inside. Okay, I'm gonna use this spare bolt I've got. I'm gonna stick it in the end of the axle here. Okay, now the next thing is to get all your cone washers. This is your cone washer. It's shaped like a cone. The narrow tapered end goes inward like that. So put all 6 of those on. Grab a hammer. Try not to hit your threads. Okay. Now the washers and the nut go on. And just grab a 12mm socket. All right, there we go. Those are all tightened up. Yeah, a little different. I was like, why is that hub so hard to turn? I'm like, oh yeah, differential. Hold that. Okay, next thing we gotta do is put on our lock ring right here to keep this from the stub of the axle going inside of the hub here, spindle assembly that needs to stay out there. So let me grab that real quick. Oh, actually it's right here. So this is probably going to be a bit of a pain in the butt for you. See if I can do this one person. Tap that on with a hammer. That would be called cheating, and if cheating works, do it. Okay, so we got that on there now. We don't need this bolt in here anymore. And the last part here is dust cover. Set that on there. And gingerly there you go. And next up, we just need to stick the brake caliper on here. Let me grab that real quick, and the bolt. And we are about done. The only other thing you're gonna have to do is put all your tie rod ends back in. Everything. Okay. Just slide your caliper and pads over your brake disc. There we go. All right, caliper's on now. Just gotta grab your bolts. Go ahead and put those in the holes and line them up. This is always a fun part. I'm trying to get them back in. Okay. There you go, that one started. Put the lower one in. That started. just tighten those down with All right, and that's it. Your assembly is done. Should not leak for at least another 100,000 miles if you're lucky. Unless you did it wrong and then it'll leak before then. Should probably have this breather back up to the axle. Don't forget to refill the diff fluid in your axle, or drain it and put some new stuff in. That's what I'm gonna do. But yeah, that's it. That's nice. Glad that's done.
2 hours later.
We have our new tie rod ends installed. Looking good. I gotta run home and grab some cotter pins because I forgot to bring them with me. But since I live a block away, I think we'll be okay. I only had one cotter pin with me. Everything is all painted, cleaned up, and looking good. I'll tell you, that lift makes my life bloody. 12 hours. We're gonna have to get the front end aligned after doing that tie rod end swap and all the work that we did. So I'll take it down Monday and get that done since it's Friday. I doubt anybody will do it tomorrow. We got to torque the front lug nuts down again too, so looking good. Love having a lift. Man, it makes life so easy. Oh dear. Dear. Okay, we are done. Have a good night.